Peter, for everybody, this is Mr. Peter McAleese. 5th video in, I think, 6 or 7 days, which is remarkable. I'm going through Peter's life now from when he started and jump forward now to his 17 and a half already. So Peter is now 17 and a half on the day that he turns up for Parachute Regiment training to get into the paras. A remarkable age. So, Peter, have you got your book handy? Let's just show the people your book. Okay. No Mean Soldier, Peter McAleese. This is being reprinted right now, done extremely well. And of course, the film that's out now called Killing Escobar. It's out right now as we speak and came out on Sunday. I watched it Sunday. I'm very impressed with the content. And of course, on the 12th of this month, that film will be going out on online cinema. So if you don't or haven't seen it, trust me, it's worth viewing. I was really impressed with it. So this is Mr. Peter McAleese. So Peter, we've talked about your childhood earlier. So here you are, surrounded by nuns at one stage. And all of a sudden, one day, you want to join the Parachute Regiment. How did that come about?
Well, I'd run away from home. I was working on the docks at Aberdeen, and I was working with this chap, and I noticed his boots were always immaculate. Although we worked in them on coal, his boots they were gleaming. And I found out he was an ex-RSM. And I started talking to him about the army, and he says, it's a place to go for a young man like you. So I went to Market Street in Aberdeen, where the recruiting office was, and I joined the Parachute Regiment. That was the Monday, and Friday morning I arrived in Aldershot, came out the station, and everybody seemed to be moving in double quick time, even in the town. And I seen this soldier, khaki uniform, and written on the shoulder tabs was green jackets. And I couldn't work this out. I said, green jackets, but he's not got a green jacket. And it was just my introduction into the army in that part of the world. So I arrived at the Parachute Regiment depot, and I noticed that everybody was moving about in double quick time. All the NCOs all looked immaculate. Everybody was extremely understanding, very, very helpful, kind. So we were told we get squadded, and we were told we would we'd start training in 2 weeks' time. And these corporals, they were really helpful to us. They'd show us how to fold our kit. Get a sheet of foolscap, put it across there. That's it, son. Well done. Good effort. Now let me show you how to roll up your socks. Put them either side. It was, and again, I was only 17 and a half. I wrote a letter to my mother, and I said, the corporal's my best pal. He really helps me, and he's so kind to me. Anyway, they came in and they said, okay, training starts Monday morning. So we were all talking about, marching in the square, and we wanted to do different things and get on the ranges. And then Monday morning, the door crashed open. A dustbin lid came rolling down the middle of the floor, and the corporals came in. It was like something out of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There was total hysteria in the barrack room. Everybody was in a sort of state of shock. So, for the next, 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I can't remember how long it was. It was just, we never stopped. Get in your PT kit, get outside, so and so and so and so, get to the kitchen. You went to the kitchen, you came back, you get fed, you were back out again. You just never stopped. And, and then it came to week 8, and we had to do guard then, because you were considered to be, trained enough to do a guard. So I was there promenading up and down outside the barracks with my rifle with the bayonet on it, and, you know, looking rather proud. But, you know, there's nothing, you know, young soldiers, they called them sprogs then. You know, you just give off that air. You know, your berry's too big for you. You don't know how to shrink it. Your uniform that fitted you when you come in, 8 weeks later, you've lost about 2 stone, you know. So everything's sort of hanging on you. And, you know, you looked like the word says you were a sprog. Anyway, I'm promenading up and down outside the barracks, and this guy came up to me and he said, "You're one of them paratroopers, aren't you?" And I went, and you know, I was fairly streetwise. You know, I knew when something was coming. And there was a dance on at the gym with the brigade and various parachute units there. And this time, the guy started to torment me. You know, he said, "I bet you can, you know, do unarmed combat and all this." And as I say, I was streetwise enough to read his game. And he went, "Look at that, a bayonet. I'll bet you do bayonet fighting as well." And by this time, you know, my heart was really pounding, you know. It was a combination of fear and apprehension, you know, because I knew what I wanted to do, but, you know, I was holding back the whole time. And he went, "Show me how to use the bayonet. Show me, come on, come on." And all his mates were there. So I ran him with the bayonet. I stabbed him through the arm. And the bayonet went through his arm and broke 2 of his ribs. And I said, "That's me." I said, "I'm out the army, you know, I've done wrong." The next morning, one of the corporals came in and he took me up to see, he was a senior officer. I think he may have been a lieutenant colonel, you know. And he took me I went into his office and he looked at me and he sort of came out with the words, "Whenever the red berry is seen, it at once inspires confidence because its wearers are good men and true and good at all things. Once again, we have proved that the caliber of man we're getting into the depth of the Parachute Regiment is outstanding," you know. And I thought I was going to get jailed. Fortunately, by the time I went through the door, I couldn't get my head through it. You know, and I carried on with my basic training. And from there, we went to the parachute school. And by this time, the corporals, you know, they're taking it really easy with us. We went to a place called Abingdon, which was the school at that time. And, you know, the food there was outstanding. Everything was so balanced, you know. Everything was all done in time. You know, there was no hysteria like we'd seen before. And it was terribly reassuring. And we got these parachute instructors, and they were really skilled guys. You know, when we're sitting, I wonder what like is to parachute, you know, and we're asking people, you know, and there was an instructor there one day. I said, "What's it like? What's it like parachuting? Tell me." And he went, "Son, it's the only time in your life you're going to urinate, defecate, and ejaculate at the same time."
And it's probably not far wrong there, mate. You know, the first time that you jump out.
Aye. So I did. Yeah, I did my first balloon jump. The second one was a wee bit frightening. And then we got onto the aircraft. You know, I always wanted to be a Parachute Regiment soldier, you know. And I got to stage where I couldn't wait to get out that door, the thrill of it all, you know. Some guys, you know, they get a bit wary when they're jumping. But, you know, as they say at the parachute school, knowledge dispels fear. You know, what chance have you got of your parachute not opening? It's just a thought. Can you see that? Plus the fact you've got a reserve parachute. So I really enjoyed being there. And we came back to the depot and we done continuation training, and the culmination of it was that I can remember the name of the exercise. It's called exercise yardstick, and we parachuted into Hankley Common, you know, and, you know, we carried out a little exercise, and some of the recruits were attacking us. Of course, we're old soldiers by this time, you know. We've been in for 16 weeks, you know. But it was a fantastic experience. The NCOs there, I mean, there was one there, I'll just call him Nobby. This guy was groomed for stardom from the start. He just had it. A fantastic instructor. The sergeant was George, a really understanding guy, could get the best out of men without roaring and shouting, you know. It was I had a good team of instructors. And in general, I was very proud that they'd taken me through my training, you know. But, you know, it wasn't easy. The earlier part to us, it was just terror until we get used to it. It was a combination of us not knowing what was happening and the NCOs doing their job. And they knew when to ease off, they knew when to take it easy on you. And then I just had a fantastic time there. And from there I was posted to the battalion. But my experience of the Parachute Regiment depot was fantastic.
You had a couple of years at the Parachute in the battalion, yeah?
Yeah.
Before, we're going to talk about this at a different stage, but before you went on to SAS selection. So you've started at a young age. You seem to, as you say, streetwise is one thing. And of course, now that you're serving and want to serve with the Parachute Battalion, you're going to get up to all sorts of things, because that's what it was like in them days. No shortage of aircraft. You could jump almost whenever you wanted to, because I seem to think that I remember that once I'd done my first one, I just wanted to get the other ones over with, you know, because that was part of being, I ain't frightened of anything. You know, it's not going to work like that. But you and what you did at that young age, okay, I joined at 15, but that was boys' service. And the fact is, Peter, that what you're saying now is, if you could just have a word and say a few words about the squaddy sense of humor and the camaraderie that you were about to build up coming from your background, okay? You've now joined the Parachute Regiment. You're doing the hard work, and it is hard work. Otherwise, everybody would be able to pass it. And there's a lot of failures. You must, I would take my hat off to anybody who tries and fails. You know, that's just one way of doing it, but they have tried. So anybody who's tried it, I take my hat off to. But what about the camaraderie and squaddy sense of humor? You must have a couple of stories tucked away on things that are funny.
It's just the Parachute Regiment in general, and you get it to a certain extent in the SAS. Well, you get it in the SAS. It's you make friends and you never lose them.
No.
I mean, one of my friends died last year, and honestly, I was fairly hurt about it. And I said to myself, you know, this friendship has been for 60 years. I've got a friend here in Birmingham. We've been mates for 50 years. And if he's driving about somewhere, he'll pull in and see me. We have a cup of tea, talk about old times, you know. And him and I, when we were young soldiers, we said a mass. We had a very famous priest in the Catholic in the Parachute Battalion, Father Beatty, and John and I were the altar boys at mass. And you know, I've never ever lost it. And we have this dispute: was the mass said in Kyrenia police station, or was it said in a mosque? But what I do remember was the priest was there, and he had a marvelous sense of humour. And I stayed friends with him until he died. You know, we were saying mass, and a dove came out the ceiling and just flew away. And he was saying mass, and he just opened his arms. He went, "The Holy Ghost," and carried on saying mass. You know, he was a fantastic guy. He'd been in the HLI during national service and before he became a priest. And, you know, none of those guys, even if I see them now, I'm always glad to see them. And I've been very fortunate that due to yourself and other people, some of my old friends have got in contact with me because it wasn't that we ignored each other. We just drifted apart, you know, through work and various things.
Well, that's another part of the story, Peter. But finally, you do, you know, you've joined at 17 and a half, fair dues to that one. You stay there a couple and a half years, 19. We're not going to talk about this right now, but you then go on. Just tell us what made you decide that, having got through the Parachute Regiment course and being into the battalion, what made you then think about, I need to go to the SAS? What made you think about it and then do it?
It started in the Parachute Regiment. I always wanted to try and be the best and serve with the best. And I was in the depot and I looked out the window and there was a guy, you know, his skin looked like it was leather. And he must have been he must have been late 30s. And he just looked, he was a grown man. But what I noticed is that he was a troopie. And he had this beige coloured berry on. And I said to one of the corporals, who is that? You know, what regiment is that? He says, oh, that's the SAS. And I looked and I went, you know, and I started inquiring into it. I spoke to guys who were in Malaya. Now, during the 50s, the Parachute Regiment had an SAS squadron, which it was, you know, an independent squadron that served with the SAS. So I met guys from there and they spoke to me about it. And then I says, I've got to go and try this. And it was just part of progression, you know.
And you passed it first time as well, didn't you?
Well, when I say passed, it wasn't easy, you know.
No, I know. I know it's not easy.
It definitely wasn't easy. In actual fact,
no.
I thought I'd failed, you know.
Yeah. Because you just don't get told, do you? In our day, you didn't get told.
You know, your state of anxiety. How have I done this week?
Yeah.
How have I done? You know? And you know, all you hear is platform 4, platform 4.
That's it, yeah. But the fact
platform 4 is the railway station where the guys get RTU'd, they go there, get the train back to wherever they live.
Wherever. And it's still used, even when I was there, it was still used. It's always platform 4, mate.
Yeah.
There isn't a platform 4. I don't think there is one now. It used to be 1, 2, and 3. Platform 4 just means off you go into the distance.
You're on your bike, yeah.
That's it, mate. But Peter, great insight again for the people listening and watching. So hopefully, you know, there's more to come, obviously, and we need to sort of look at where we're going to go next. But up until joining the SAS, we've covered in a couple of videos today. So I hope the people enjoy that, because we're all different, but we've all got some stories, and the stories they're not top secret, okay? None of them. But what they are is it just lets people understand. People say, how do you get through this lockdown and stuff? You know what? You try sitting in an OP for 28 days where you can't move and you've got no food and water, or very little. You get through lockdown okay. And people need to understand that our life stories are what we're trying to pass on, because everything is on a plate these days, more or less, when nowadays we had to work for it. But I would never change it. I don't think you would either, Peter.
No, it was a part of my life I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and me and other people I know would say exactly the same. So thanks, everybody. We will be back with another story. So bear with us.